Health and fitness fads come and go all the time, but unfortunately not all of them are worth your time and effort. Some of them don't work, some of them are overhyped, and some of them are just plain dangerous. But functional strength is different. While functional strength is very much in vogue right now, it's not a fad by any means. In fact, functional strength is the opposite of a fad, and it's a step in the right direction for all of fitness. That's because functional strength takes it all back. Takes it all back to the reasons that most of us started training in the first place, or at least the reasons we should be training. Because, let's be honest, far too many people train for the mirror. How many guys do you see pulling up their t-shirt in front of the mirror after a set of sit-ups? How many women do you see on treadmills wearing the tiniest pants in the world and barely working up a sweat? Do you think these people are training for the right reasons? And how about the guy who's so ridiculously muscular that he can't touch his toes anymore without busting a gut? This isn't fitness. Not really. And that's what functional strength addresses. As the name suggests, functional strength is strength that is functional. In other words, it's strength that you can use. So you're not trying to look strong or look healthy, you're trying to be those things. This is the difference between training like a gym bro and training like Bruce Lee. Which would you prefer? And don't worry if you're not super fit or if you don't have any interest in becoming an elite athlete. Functional strength is important for everyone. Functional strength helps you in every aspect of your life because it gives you better control over your body and your environment. Functional fitness extends to things like flexibility, correct breathing techniques and posture. All these things enable you to move with less pain, more grace and more speed. When you train for functional strength and fitness, everything becomes easier, from opening a jam jar to helping a friend move furniture to getting out of bed in the morning. And if you want to train for your appearance as your first priority, well, then this is still the right way to go, because when you train for strength and power, you look much better. Don't believe me? Then think about it logically. The reason that humans find healthy people attractive is because we assume they have better genetics and are better able to protect themselves and their families. Someone with functional strength really can do all those things and really is healthier. So they send all of those unconscious signals that make them more attractive to the opposite sex. This all sounds great, but perhaps you're confused right now as to how you can have more than one type of strength. Surely strength is strength, right? Well, to an extent you're right, but in other ways you're not. To start with, let's take a quick look at isolation training versus compound training. Isolation training means that you're specifically training certain muscle groups in isolation, on their own. This is how many of us have been told to train. For instance, when you perform bicep curls, you'll probably do this by holding a dumbbell in one hand and then curling the weight up to meet your shoulder. This is an isolation movement because the only muscle working is the bicep, especially if you're sitting down. Only one joint, the elbow, is moving and everything else is static, thus one muscle. But in real life we don't move like this. In real life, nearly every movement from carrying shopping to jumping up steps requires a combination of muscles working in unison. When you train a bicep curl, you risk building your biceps up bigger than the other muscles around them, like the triceps and the forearms, which can create an imbalance. If your biceps get much bigger than the triceps, for instance, which are the antagonistic muscles to the biceps, meaning they apply the opposite force, then this can make the arms look odd and potentially lead to injury. The same goes for leg extensions, hamstring curls, tricep extensions, the list just goes on and on. Another issue here is that you aren't teaching the muscles to work together. Instead, you're using the muscles on their own, which means you're less likely to move efficiently, powerfully, or without injury. A compound movement, on the other hand, is something like a pull-up or a squat. These movements mimic the way we move in real life when climbing or when jumping, and that means that they will utilize multiple muscle groups at once in a more efficient and synergistic manner. When performing any movement in the gym, you should always ask yourself, when would I use a similar movement in real life? If you can't think of an answer, then it may mean that the movement you're training isn't actually all that useful and probably isn't functional. But that's not the only distinction between training methods either. Another issue to contend with is the difference between training for strength and training for size, because the two are completely different. If you want to train for strength, then you need to lift heavy weights that are close to your maximum 1 rep max. This means that you're really pushing your body to exert as much power as possible, and the more you do this, the more you'll be able to improve your mind-muscle connection, create tears in your muscle fibers to strengthen them, and improve your technique for generating maximum power. But training for size is a little different. When you train for size, it's more important to focus on getting pump. This means you're flooding your muscles with blood and metabolites that stimulate growth. The best way to get pumps is to use higher repetitions. In other words, to use lighter weight, something that you can lift maybe 8 to 12 times, and to do lots of sets. The technical term for these two types of strength training are myofibrillar hypertrophy, that's strength, and sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, size. Both do have purpose. Training for size also means training for endurance, and if you work to build swollen muscles, it means you'll have plenty of fluids in your arms to power you through a long workout session. In the real world, this might be the equivalent of carrying heavy bags a long way without fatiguing, so it's certainly useful. But if you're training like a lot of gym bros, you'll only be doing sarcoplasmic training. That means you'll build big muscles for sure, but it means they won't be as strong as they could be. If you're now starting to feel worried that the training you've been using in the past isn't functional, don't worry. That's exactly what we're going to set out to fix in this video series, so buckle in and get ready to start training in ways you've never imagined. The result? A body that doesn't just look good, but has performance like a super expensive muscle car. You'll be like a coiled spring, ready to explode into action at any time. Say goodbye to tiredness, to soreness, to weakness, and say hello to functional strength. Specifically, we'll be looking at functional training methods, tools and techniques, stretching, injury prevention, diet strategies, CrossFit and other types of training, bodyweight training, and much more.